Today we'll discuss another important sharp task of language processing, namely name entity recognition. And specifically we'll be using spaCy library again to implement name entity recognition. This lecture would be in two parts. Today we'll have a brief understanding of name entity recognition, what it is, why do we use it, and then we'll have a very basic implementation of name entity recognition using spaCy. In a subsequent lecture we'll implement some more complicated cases of name entity recognition using the spaCy library. So let's start. So before formally defining name entity recognition, let's start with some examples to understand the task of name entity recognition. So on your screen here you see a snippet of a news site which is displaying live news on COVID-19. Say different relevant news from different sources are displayed and updated as and when new news arrives. Now say that we have built a system or software to scan the site to look for names of countries, states, cities, towns, and total numbers of people affected with the disease. So essentially what our system does is it will try to locate names of countries, cities, or basically any location. Like this is the name of a state, this is the name of a country, it can be some this is name of another country, it can be name of some city, some town, it can be any name of any location. So what that software is trying to build is any name of such a location, it would read those names and try to find out the number of patients of the people who are affected by this disease in that particular location. So what is the main basic task of that particular software? The main task of that particular software is to find the names of the locations. That's the first task. So first task is to look for names of locations. That location can be a country, city, state, something like that. The other thing, it is looking for number of people. So it is trying to locate numbers and we'll try to associate these numbers with those particular locations. So apparently the main task is to look for locations and look for numbers that are related to those locations. Let us take another example. This is a recipe. So recipes can be found anywhere on the net, in some magazines, in the newspapers. So there is no standard way of presenting a recipe. Now let's assume that we are trying to automate the process of reading recipes. That means we're trying to find some standard way of presenting recipes. Basically say we're trying to create a flowchart of what are those ingredients, what ingredients are mixed with each other, what is the basic flow process, what to do first, what to do next, what for how many durations a particular action should be taken, sort of a flow chart. Now say one of the basic tasks is to find the name of the ingredients in our recipe. So these are the directions of this particular recipe. So these are some of the ingredients. These ingredients are mixed, then again in the next step some other ingredients are mixed. So what we're basically trying to look at, name of ingredients. So in the first example we're trying to look for names of locations, durations. In this example we are trying to look for names of ingredients. Now from these two examples let's try to formulate the basic task of name entity recognition. The main idea of name entity recognition is that we take a text as an input and then look for and then classify names in the text. So it is basically the task of detecting or finding and classifying real world objects. Look at this particular word, real world objects. We're trying to find and then classify real world objects. Now if you look at these definitions, there are two steps. Essentially there are two steps. First step is we try to detect or find. Where do we try to detect or find? We try to detect or find something in a text document. What we're trying to find? We're trying to find real world objects. After finding, what we're doing, we're trying to classify. So there are basically two steps: finding and classifying. So again, look at these two steps. This is a task of finding and classifying real world objects mentioned in the text or document. So some of the common name entities include personal names, locations, organizations, etc. Now look at this example, this new snippet, and then try to incorporate this definition into this particular text. What was our main task? Main task was to find. Let's first find the real world objects mentioned in the text, and then we'll try to classify those real world objects. So what real world objects do you find here? Can you think for a moment and then try to find what are those real world objects? So I've highlighted some of these objects which we are trying to find. In this example, the first step is to find the names, and these are the names. This is a name. You can look at it. Narendra Modi is a name. Sachin Pilot is a name. Amarinder Singh is a name. Congress is a name. BJP is a name. So these are some of these names. So this name, Narendra Modi, if you look at it, this is composed of two tokens. If you look at it, there are two tokens, Narendra and Modi. So is this name, Sachin Pilot. It is also consists of two tokens. Amarinder Singh is also consists of two tokens. This name, Congress, is consisting of a single tokens. So once we find the names, we go to classify the names. So we say that certain things are persons, certain things are locations, certain things are organizations, certain things is a date. These are some of the examples. So what we have done till now, we have taken a block of text. This is the block of text we have taken. Then we have detected certain real world objects. We have detected these real world objects, and then we have classified those objects. We have classified those objects. Say this is a object, this is a person name, this is an organization, this is a date. This sort of things we have done. A little bit about the origins of these two words, named and entity, these two particular words, because we are using the word named entity. The word entity basically refers to the real world objects, the discrete things of the world. For example, I am an entity, you are an entity, our university is an entity. Now some of these entities can be named. So I have a name, you have a name, our university have a name. But remember, not every discrete physical thing needs to be a named entity. The chair I am sitting on right now has a physical existence, but it has no name. So it is not a named entity. Now, what can be the uses of name entity recognitions? Why do we use name entity recognition? Why we're trying to find name entities from a document or a block of text? Let's try to find out some of the uses of name entity recognition. A very modern task is of content recommendations. For news publishers, using name entity recognition to recommend similar articles is a proven approach. Let's try to show you an example. This is an example from BBC News. It shows how recommendations for similar articles are implemented in real life. This can be done by extracting entities from a particular article and recommending the other articles which have the most similar entities mentioned in them. So at the top, this is an article, and based on the entities in that particular article, some other news items can be recommended. So this is an approach that have been used effectively to develop content recognitions for a media industry client. This is another example. Say there is a particular site which have products, and those products are categorized into four categories. Say certain products are for male, certain products are for female, certain products are for kids, and certain products are neutral. Now it's trying to recommend those products to people. So obviously, if there is a male, they would recommend male products. If someone is a female, they would recommend female products. if someone is a child or someone has a child, they would be recommended kids products, sort of things. Now, does it always work? Now, think of it. Say Nick is a person who mostly browse through female products. If you look at it, there is a certain number of percentages of all the products this person browse. 92% are female products. So instead of recommending products which are for males, the particular website should recommend products which are related to female to this particular person. So what is our task? Our name entity recognition here. So our task would be basically to find these entities, say find these entities and categorize. If we try to categorize these people based on these four categories, it should categorize Nick as a female instead of categorizing Nick as a male, because most of the times Nick is browsing female related products. Another use of name entity recognition is customer support. There are a number of ways to make the process of customer support feedback handling smooth, and name entity recognition is one of them. Let's take an example to understand the process. So if you are handling the customer support department of a food delivery chain, say with multiple branches worldwide, you go through a number of customers' feedback. Like this, for instance, say you are provided with this particular customer feedback. Look at this feedback. Now, if you pass this feedback through a name entity recognition systems, it pulls out certain entities. Can you think of those entities? One entity would be this particular location. So New York City is a location. It also pulls out this particular organization. If you look at it, these two tokens provide a certain organization. Say some of name of sub restaurants, name of an organization. So this can be taken to categorize the complaint and assign it to relevant department within the organization that should be handling this particular complaint. Some of the other uses of name entity recognition. So name entities can be indexed and hyperlinked. So say you have a site of a university, so you are trying to tag the faculty names of that particular university with certain subjects and then hyperlink those faculty names with their biographies, sort of things. Now again, another important use can be to attribute sentiments. So there are, say, positive, negative, neutral sentiments for different products or different organizations. So your name entity recognition system can look for those different products or organizations in that particular text. And for most of the question answering systems, names, the answers are often name entities. So for example, say we have a question answering system which answers about certain queries, like when was the First World War happened, which countries took part in the First World War. So these are some of the questions, and these answers are almost always invariably named entities. So these are some of these uses of name entity recognition. And finally, if you look at it, this is an example of a named entity recognition API, which classify content for news providers. So many news sites generate large amounts of online content on a daily basis, and managing them correctly is very important to get the most use of each article. Name entity recognition API can automatically scan entire articles and reveal which are the major people, organizations, and places discussed in them. Knowing the relevant tags, the relevant keywords for each article help in automatically categorizing the articles in defined hierarchies and enable smooth content discovery. So this is a real life example of a name entity recognition system. So now we'll see how to do name entity recognition using spaCy. During previous lectures, we have discussed about spaCy, that it is one of the fastest NLP framework in Python with optimized function for each of the NLP tasks like tokenizing, POS tagging, and named entity recognition. So spaCy's name entity recognition has been trained on this particular corpus known as onto nodes 5, and this particular system supports certain entity types. So these are some of those entity types. So it recognizes person, it recognizes nationalities or religious or political groups, it recognizes facilities. Some of the example of facilities are buildings, airports, highways, bridges. It recognizes organizations. It recognizes something known as GP, examples are countries, cities, states. It identifies locations, it can recognize products, it can recognize events. So these are the examples. These are some of the entities that can be recognized by spaCy. And this is an example of how spaCy's name entity recognition system works. So given this particular block of text, this particular block of text was given to spaCy, and then it has recognized this particular entity. So Elon Musk has been recognized as a person, Facebook has been recognized as an organization, Tesla has been recognized as a product. If you look at it, this Elon Musk has been recognized as an organization here. It was recognized as a person. So not only recognizing the entity, to recognize the entity based on the context is also important. Then this first is recognized as an ordinal. If you go back to this ordinal type, this, look at this ordinal type. So first, second, third, these types are recognized as an ordinal. And look at this another block of text. This thing has been recognized as a time. Now see, look at this. Not only this 12:10, this whole block around 12:10 p.m. standard time. This whole block has been recognized as time. So this is an important thing to look for. Now, when we use spaCy, these name entities are available using the ENTS property of a particular document. If you have gone through the previous lecture on POS tagging, remember we have used certain property like tag underscore or POS underscore, like that. This particular property ENTS is used for name entity recognition. Today we'll start with doing some basic name entity recognition using spaCy, and in the subsequent lecture we'll do some more complex tasks using spaCy in the field of name entity recognition. So let's start implementing. So here we go. We start a new notebook. So first step is, as always, importing spaCy. Before that, let me connect. So till it connects, let me do the first step. We have imported spaCy, and also we have to load the English language model. So let's say NLP spaCy dot load the English language model. You can write the full form here, en underscore core underscore web underscore sm, but this is sufficient. So we have imported spaCy, and then we have loaded the English language model of spaCy, because we will be working with spaCy English language model. So let's execute these first two lines. So space is imported and the English language model is loaded. Now let's input a block of text. Because we have to write it, I have already written a block of text. So say this is the block of text, a certain block of text where I have mentioned the names of certain organizations, certain products. So this is a particular block of text, and then let's create a document object on this text. So NLP this text, and let's execute these two lines. So this particular document has been created from this particular text. Now let's do our important part, the name entity recognition part. So we have already seen that we use the property ENT. So let's start for ENT in doc.ents. This part we have already mentioned in the presentation, that this particular property ENTS of this document would be used for the name entity recognition part. So let's print the text, the entities, the start character, the end character, and the label. And then let's execute it. So here is the result. You can see. So Google has been identified as an organization, Apple has been identified as an organization, Siri has been recognized as a product, Amazon has been recognized as an organization, Alexa has been recognized as an organization, Echo has been recognized as a product, dot has been recognized as a product. So you can see that the name entity recognition system of spaCy has identified these different entities. You can actually see it in a visualization way also. So for visualizing it, we have to import a particular library known as displaycy. So let's import it. Say from spaCy import displaycy. So this particular library used for visualizing the output. So we have to render it. So we write displaycy dot render that particular document. We have to say Jupyter true and style as ent, and let's execute it. You can see it has actually visualized it nicely. Google has been identified as an organization, Apple as an organization. So today we have done the basic task of name entity recognition using spaCy library, but this is a very basic task. A lot of times you would be interested to have your own tags. Say you want to recognize some custom made text. How do you ensure spaCy identifies your custom made entities? Sometimes say you have formed a new organization, but because that particular new organization is a new organization, the name was not there, so spaCy's name entity recognition library won't be able to identify or recognize the new organization as an organization. How do you enable that so that spaCy identifies the organization as an organization? So these two tasks, identifying new entities into their correct categories, and then also how to incorporate custom made custom tags, custom entities into your program. These two parts we'll see in our subsequent lecture. Thank you.